in interest of time, I will move forward with the next section, which is about a question bank. And you may have a question that what is the significance of question bank? So just to give a context, last year, healthcare and frontline workers were trained on a platform, which was built using Sunbird. And these trainings included formative assessment so that learners can check how much they have understood. And the data would help administrators get insights into effectiveness of the program. Imagine how powerful, where all of this is happening remotely, frontline workers on the ground helping everyone thrive in current situations, while administrators trying to manage everything at scale of a nation, right? Another example, just last week, many prominent exams got cancelled, and I'm sure many kids might have been celebrating that. So teachers now rely on students' participation in online classes, on their performance in the class quiz, and so on. And what if this data was available at one click for students to share with teachers and for teachers to refer back to? What if they wouldn't have to scroll through pages and pages stored in a file, right? So questions are not just used to conduct exams or to assess. In fact, with exams being cancelled, it's opening up new dimensions of learning interactions between students, teachers, and administrators. Let's look at some of those. There are diverse needs when we look at how learners, instructors, and administrators think about question bank. And questions can do various things for us. They can challenge us, they can push our thinking, and give a sense of achievement when we respond to them. Questions can instigate curiosity in learners to get them hooked onto a topic. For example, a teacher may ask, why do plants grow but stones do not? And that's a great hook for a third grade student. And questions also enable us to sense what is the effectiveness of a program by conducting surveys or by measuring outcomes. So that's the power of question bank and the diverse needs that it can serve. Let's take a few concrete examples. Imagine that an admin wants to conduct assessment for a training, and the assessment has 3 sections of 10 questions each. People are allowed to take only 3 attempts. They must complete it within an hour, and they will get a merit certificate based on the attempts. That's one example of how question bank can power assessments. The another one could be that healthcare volunteers need to conduct surveys in communities, and these are to be conducted between April and June, and they should collect at least the mandatory information, and the data should be presented back to the admin in a dashboard so that they can make sense of what happened on the ground. Or another example of a school student wanting to practice a topic in their syllabus, and what if they could get questions from a pool at random, and they get feedback as they respond. They can check hints and solution if they have any doubts. And these are some of the examples that we can consider. And now if you apply the unbundling principle here, you would realize that these are merely a configuration that can enable these behaviors. For example, for the assessment, we can write it as it's meant for employees, allows only 3 attempts, whereas a survey allows unlimited attempts, and a practice sort of has no notion of attempts at the moment. And if that's what the use case is. So if you notice, if you apply your sort of X-ray lens and unbundle these are merely configurations to enable these behavior. And what we have done at Sunbird is we have allowed anyone to layer a behavior on top of a question. And let me sort of present the next slide where you see that all the wide range of behaviors that can be enabled, and there are many more that you can enable, are just a layer on top of the interactive questions which reside in the open specification we have defined. And with these, you can conduct really powerful learning experiences on ground. You can have surveys, practice, assessments, quizzes, or anything else you imagine, right? Just take a second to glance through the behaviors that you could have. For example, you can say at the end of a question that I want to get certificate, or I want to gamify the experience so that students find it engaging. I want to shuffle the questions that are there. I want to provide a time limit. I want to track how students are doing, and so on. Now, once again, all of this are available as in sort of can be created using out-of-the-box building blocks. So you can literally open the floodgates of innovation for your organization by leveraging these building blocks and the underlying capabilities that we have. We have editors where you can create questions and again take control of how they look, what gets onto the platform by reviewing them. We have players, which are interactive question set players, and they also allow you to print question sets. So you can use these to conduct any digital or physical quizzes or assessments or practice in your context. These support multiple languages, so it truly serves the diversity of India. And gamification is possible, so you can even gamify the experience through all this. And you can leverage the telemetry data that all of this generates to gather relevant insights in your context. And this aspect about everything generating telemetry data is so crucial because this really enables you to sense what is going on from a distance. And in these remote learning days, this is truly powerful because teachers can now see how students are learning. Administrators can see what people or employees are doing on the ground. And it's not just a tool to monitor, but it can also be a tool to engage, where you can conduct quizzes, you can conduct surveys, and much more. Now, to touch upon one very innovative example using cutting edge technologies like AI, ML, we have been able to generate data, as in gather data, not just from the online interactions on the system, but even from the pen and paper physical exams which are conducted in schools and otherwise. So I invite Manmeet to walk us through one of that innovative solution that we have on Sunbird.
Thanks, Suren. Let me know if, as you see my slide.
Yes, I can see your slide.
Thank you. Good morning to everyone. As I take you through this example quickly from education as being example, do think and mull over how you could use it in your context. It's a great example of digitization, where physical plus digital come together to create a huge impact. And as we all know, there are multiple exams which happen throughout the country at any given point in time. And let me move over. And this is the typical corrected sheet, answer sheet of a student, which we all know. We would have seen in our times as well. Our answer sheets being corrected by the teacher. Teacher corrects them, and then typically they have a summary where they put in what is the score each student has. Now, typically to digitize this, what happens is teacher has to key in this data in some format or the other, either directly on a portal or on a sheet which gets uploaded. And these are error prone. We know that human errors are possible. It also leads to some productive loss of time of teachers, while teachers should spend time on teaching rather than doing this. And by the time information is collated, collected, processed, its relevancy is almost lost, because with the examples we have seen, it almost takes 2.5 to 3 months to get data in a format which is usable, which nudges action by the key stakeholders, right? And just to show you how we have enabled this is, you see on the left hand side is what typically exists, a teacher summarizing the scoring of a student, while on the right hand side, by making a subtle change to the form, teacher still fills in that form, but that form enables scannability. And how this happens, I will show you via a short video, right, which I will talk through while you see it. So a teacher typically logs into this app, which we call Saral app, right? And as the teacher logs in, it asks for the grade, the test date, etc. And then after that, teacher is able to scan the sheet which you saw in the last slide. Once the teacher is able to use the app and scan the sheet, the data on the sheet is digitized, as you can see on your screen, and is available for the teachers to verify before submitting. If there are any errors in scanning, those can be corrected by the teacher as well, right? And submit it. So as it gets submitted, now that is available for that is available on the state servers for uh, uh, for it to be processed. And what you see on the screen is something where this is an example of almost 43.5 lakh students who have taken around 89 exams spanning from July last year to March this year, an exam a month, and almost 310 million records being processed and presented in a format which in a quick view can also tell you which are the areas where the students need to work on. You can see the reds and greens in a snapshot, and these can be further taken down, drilled down to the student level, because we have data, not only student level, to the LO level or to the question level, where the students are either not performing well or the teachers, and it also leads to some teaching methodology changes, etc., which can be run as a campaign. So this is a great example of, or a very useful example of digitization, which you could think of a usage in your context, how you could use it. And I'll leave that idea with you to mull over. And if you have any questions, happy to answer. Back to you, Salil.
Yes, thank you, Suren and Manmeet. So we looked at the rich variety of content that can be provided to our learners, and also it's just not about the learning, but also assessing and sensing is an extremely important element, and hence that was also covered.